Back in 2011, I had a nightmare. I was driving through a forest with my younger brother Mani. It was raining cats and dogs. All around us, the shells of abandoned buildings. All of a sudden, we came across a monster. Weirdly, what struck me the most was its light blue button-down shirt. Mani stepped out of the car, hero that he is, to confront the monster. The monster was staring me right in the eye, signaling to me as if to say, "Get him back in the car or else." It wasn't attacking us, but it knew who we were. I woke up shaken. I called Mani. He was attending a wedding in Pakistan. I told him to watch out for someone in a light blue outfit. He said all the women were wearing light blue. It was trending. We laughed about that. A few months later, I came to realize that this was a prophetic dream about my father, my Abu. I've spent most of my life struggling for my father's approval. After his Islamic awakening, Abu declared music, dancing, and birthdays haram, forbidden. It wasn't always that way. Abu used to say that of all his children, Arshad, that's me, and Asma, my eldest sister, would bring him either great fame or great shame. For years, I rejected Abu. I questioned his choices. I hated his judgment, even as I judged him back. I rebelled, ignoring the extent to which our lives were intertwined. For one thing, Abu was once as passionate about art as I. He loved music and he loved cinema. He was an avid photographer. In his youth, he was always sporting a camera around his shoulder. He had a keen eye for composition and captured beautiful landscapes and faces. I get my love of cinema from him. And Abu loved technology. Our house was always up to date in the latest gadgets and cameras. And we in turn became home movie auteurs. We were the first family in our entire circle of friends to own a VHS movie camera in 1981. That's me, age 7, directing my brother. My reconciliation with the past begins with the story of my parents. Their story begins with the history of India and Pakistan. In 1947, the British partitioned India according to religion. The Hindu majority became India, and the Muslim majority became the Islamic State of Pakistan. As a Muslim, Abu was on the wrong side. Religious riots had started. A flood of refugees were crossing the border both ways. This forced migration resulted in almost 2 million lives lost. Abu was a 10-year-old orphan. Along with his 4 siblings, they were forced to leave their home and head to Pakistan, the promised land. The Khan kids ended up living with relatives in a small town outside Lahore. As soon as he could, Abu moved to Lahore for his education. He worked hard to get into the Pakistan Army. The day he received his acceptance was one of the happiest days of his life. Abu graduated top of his class with a double engineering degree in electrical and mechanical engineering. The army became Abu's surrogate family. It offered him honor, dignity, and respect, something that the class-conscious country did not afford the poor. Abu initially decided to dedicate his life to the service and swore never to marry. But he was the first among his friends to tie the knot. Abu and Ammi, my mother, couldn't have come from more different backgrounds. While Abu had endured the hardships as a refugee, Ammi was from the upper classes. She was sheltered from all that.
My childhood was beautiful. I enjoyed all my childhood. And we had a very big family, 5 brothers and 5 sisters. I was the eldest. I was in grade 10 when he proposed me because I was very punctual and I had neat habits. I was obedient and I was caring, and he liked those things.
ये तुम्हें क्या हुआ? महज एक औरत की आसाइश के लिए सैकड़ों लोगों को यूं बंद कर दिया गया, जैसे वो इंसान नहीं, भेड़ बकरियां.
Our first movie was Aladdin Ka Chirag. When we got married, every day we used to see movie. Mostly love stories. At first, I didn't understand much. He used to explain it to me, and he said, "You are so naive. You don't understand simple things." I said, "No."
My mother was a great mother. She was actually a very caring, progressive, beautiful homemaker. I think my fondest memory would be how my mother, with her limited budget, would always manage to make the house look beautiful. And then once the house chores were done, she would just play the big Grundig record player and play Pakiza songs and then dance on them, and we would hide behind the curtain watching her dance.
I loved army life. After the army, it was totally struggle. But we were together. He always encouraged me, and I always encouraged him. We had lots of ups and downs, like free falls.
My parents had 6 children. I was the glamorous child number 5. In the mid-70s, Abu went from being a major to a civilian. He took an early retirement from the army, opting instead to be an independent engineering contractor for them. We moved to the nation's capital, Islamabad, on the same day that the dictator General Ziaul Haq hung the democratically elected Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto and made himself president for life. Zia inaugurated the National Trade Exhibition where my father had an unusual stall. Abu had an entrepreneurial streak. He got into the spring water business at a time when no one had ever imagined water being sold as a soft drink. Most people saw it as selling sand to the Bedouins.
ये अमेरिकन सिस्टम जो है ये रीफिल पाउच है ये इसको आप इसके अंदर सिर्फ डाल दें कैंची से काट दें ये लीक भी करती है तब भी पानी इसके अंदर ही रहता है ये इसलिए ये अमेरिकन सिस्टम ज़्यादा बेहतर है ये देखिए कराची लिमिटेड स्प्रिंग वाटर कंपनी लिमिटेड कराची
जब ये मकबूल हो जाएगा फिर आप इसको मोटा से लेके
जरूर डेफिनेटली
It was the early 80s. Abu's business was booming. He was happy, and so were we.
Islamabad was a great city to grow up in. There was no kind of fear in terms of security and safety. Everybody knew everybody, one way or the other, because it was a smaller city.
It was a magical place, a city with a burgeoning and educated middle class with all sorts of creative types. There seemed to be real promise of a progressive future. You heard it in the euphoric pop anthems of brother and sister duo Nazia and Zohaib Hassan. Not even General Zia's ban on their music for being overtly Western stopped the nation from adoring them. Asma argued with Abu and Ami incessantly over personal freedom and liberty.
I got a lot of freedom as a child and as a young person because my father was a very liberal thinking man. The man, as a matter of fact, who first of all allowed his daughters to ride horses, to go swimming in the entire family.
Asma was my idol. She was an unapologetic artist, a painter who taught me how to draw. She even acted on TV for a bit before being pressured to stop by the extended family. Like typical old-fashioned Pakistanis, they felt such things beneath the dignity of a respectable Pakistani girl. Our living room was surrounded by windows. On nights when my parents were away, my sisters and I would turn the lights off, open all the curtains, play loud music, and just dance like mad. Ever since I can recall, I was somehow different. I couldn't relate to the men around me. I cared a lot about what I wore and how I looked. I remember once driving my mother crazy at a shoe store wanting to buy pointy gray-colored dress shoes. I was such a mama's boy. I loved my mother more than anyone. I even spied for her sometimes, and I was her trusted chaperone to my sisters. Our house was a revolving door of friends and neighbors. One time, my sister Aisha and her friend decided it would be fun to play dress up with me. I was delighted, and soon I was running around the house in one of their fancy dresses. A teenage boy from the neighborhood took this as a cue to use me as his plaything. He ushered me into a bathroom and told me we were going to play a game. He molested me. I was 4.5. I think it was this incident that triggered an association of sex with men.
पता नहीं रो रहा है
ऐसे कर रहा है
सही बात है रो रहा है
एक्टिंग बहुत अच्छी करता है आपको पता नहीं इसे मुंह से हाथ उठाए जरा
बस फ्रॉड चीज है छोड़ दो इसको यहाँ से नीचे जाएगा जाने दो जाने दो
रेडियो पाकिस्तान इस्लामाबाद 13 इसमाइल खान एक्टिंग तो मार दे उठ अब होश आ गई है मुबारक हो
आगे जा रहा है वो तीनों से सबसे छोटा है अर्शद जाने दो आगे दो
चढ़ने की नहीं ऊपर
थोड़ी
और डरते डरते जा रहे हो
अलग जा रही है भैया मातेरा दे
Abu didn't quite know what to do with me.
हां कोई क्लेम
झंडा से करने की गलती मैं सबसे पहले वहां चढ़ा और सबसे पहले नीचे आया
Abu told me to be tough. I hated not being tough.
मैं डॉक्टर नहीं बनूंगा
ब्रश है किसी के पास अच्छा नहीं है
Before I knew it, my sisters were of marriageable age. Love was no longer the stuff of Bollywood dreams. It was now a reality at home. Marriage seemed to be the ultimate goal. I too began dreaming of becoming a groom, thinking of the great designs I would pick out for my bride. I fantasized about how my parents would celebrate my wedding one day. I was too young to realize it at the time, but Asma was frustrated by my parents' attempts to limit her freedom. I remember my parents forcing her to decline an international scholarship to study art in Korea. She wanted out of our home. When Asma decided to get married, I was devastated. What could I do? I was 10 and this was tradition. The idea of my sister going from our house, her house, to another person's house seemed like a property transfer. Her decision to change her last name really upset me. In our culture, brides cry and the bride's family is sad when she leaves the home. Watching it all up close, getting married in Pakistan seemed to me to be about anything but love. After marriage, you may fall in love. By the end of the 80s, Pakistan was changing. General Ziaul Haq's airplane was bombed in 1988, and Benazir Bhutto replaced him as the democratically elected prime minister. The dictatorship had ended. Coincidentally, this was also the time Abu's business troubles started. And just like that, it was all gone. We moved from Islamabad to a dingy, tiny apartment in the congested city of Rawalpindi. We lost almost all our friends, and I had to change schools. We were all striving to build ourselves anew. The video captures the facade of happiness. Our sorrow remains undocumented. My teenage years were the toughest. I hated myself, and I didn't really understand why. There was no one to talk to and no one to share my pain with. I wanted to erase myself. One day, I was sitting with a friend who lived upstairs when out of the blue, he kissed me on the lips. I was startled. I wasn't really even attracted to him. My mother was snooping on us. She opened the door at the exact worst moment and caught us. She was furious, and I was deeply embarrassed. She made me promise never to commit such a besharam act again, or else she would tell Abu. In Pakistan, being gay is an insult, a slur, tantamount to being a pedophile or a rapist, the lowest of the low. So gay people stay invisible. Abu once told me, there are no gays in Pakistan. I hated most men in my life. The boys I fooled around with in turn hated me once they'd had their pleasure. I never associated sex with love. That is why it was all the more confusing when I did fall in love. And that too, at the ripe old age of 14. It didn't help that he was also my worst enemy at school. Elvis. He was an upper-class brat who hated his father and found comfort in me. And I was an ex-upper-class sissy who needed to be loved. Once Elvis and I took a magical train ride through the mountains, and we spent a beautiful night together in each other's arms en route to the city of Lahore. We were there for about a week, all the time exploring each other and growing bolder in our intimacy. Like all good things, this too came to a crashing end. Elvis had warned me not to write to him, but I didn't listen. Elvis's mother came across one of my love letters and she lost it on him. His father even threatened castration if he ever caught him near me again. When it was over, I was devastated. Having tasted the joy of being so fully loved and appreciated for the first time in my life was too great a pleasure to let go of. On top of that, there was no one I could confide in about my love and its loss. The end left me feeling worthless. One day, a friend asked me why I was so miserable. Why didn't I hang out with Elvis anymore? The stereo was playing that big song by Roxette, and so I gathered up my nerve and declared, "It must have been love, but it's over now." He laughed riotously and teased me mercilessly. I lost all courage to mention it to anyone else. There's nothing but shame when you fall in love in Pakistan. Nothing but shame. My family saw me crash and burn through this unlikely friendship. One night, Abu came across me listening to Reshma. He asked me if I understood the lyrics. He repeated them. Had I known of your character, I would never have fallen for you. Could Abu sense how I had been suffering? He seemed to understand what I was going through. I cherished that moment. From then on, no more Roxette. It was Reshma on rewind and repeat. We had relatives living in Canada, so our family made the big decision to migrate there in pursuit of a better life. In the dead of winter 1991, we found ourselves in Mississauga, a suburb of Toronto. I imagined this might be the best thing for a broken heart. New world, new life, new me. I remember it being really, really cold. All I saw around me were identical cookie-cutter homes, all grey and brown. I was used to the lush green mountains of Islamabad. I already missed home. Our first meal was takeout pizza, and our first clothes came from the Price Club. The fruit seemed to have no flavor, especially the bananas. Was this the land of the bland we had come to? We moved to a small house on a quiet street. It was pretty cramped because the landlord rented the lower portion to someone else. To our left, there was a Greek family. They were friendly. To the right, an elderly Italian couple with a daughter. She was mean. Across the street were an Anglo-Canadian family. They never even made eye contact with us, let alone become friends. No thanks, I'd rather do my own thing. Stop looking at the camera. My parents went around to all the neighbors and introduced themselves. My father often cleared the snow for the elderly Italian neighbor and mowed his front lawn as well. My mother brought them grapes from the vines in our backyard. She didn't use them, and the Italians liked to make wine. I expected high school in Canada to be a place right out of Archie comics. Of course, it never occurred to me that there were no South Asians in good old Riverdale High. I had a serious identity crisis. It was a shock to understand that here, I was brown. Another shock, being Pakistani was simply not cool. All my excitement about starting over in Canada quickly evaporated. On top of that, I heard some classmates laugh and throw the word gay around in reference to me. I couldn't believe the new me was still unable to be more normal. In Pakistan, I did not even know the word gay. My parents also seemed to be labeling me the same way. Magazines with scantily clad people and some of my suggestive paintings suddenly disappeared. It was Ammi's handiwork. Abu lectured us constantly about how we were all becoming too influenced by Canadian values. Especially when one Christmas, he saw me putting up lights around the house, Car rides with Abu became lessons in theology. Almost as soon as As hit seat, a religious tape by Islamic cleric Farhat Hashmi was slid in, and suddenly I was tortured with Sodom and Gomorrah or the sins of Lot.
पहले से ही वो ऐसी बदकारियों के खूगर थे। लूत अलैहिस्सलाम ने उनसे कहा, भाइयों, ये मेरी बेटियां मौजूद हैं, ये तुम्हारे लिए पाकीज़ा तर हैं। होमोसेक्सुअल्स थे, तो इसलिए उन्होंने कहा कि लड़कों से अपनी ख्वाहिश पूरी करने की बजाय लड़कियों से निकाह करो, कुछ खुदा का खौफ करो।
Real subtle, Abu. Don't worry. My days of falling in love with boys are over.
उन्होंने जवाब दिया, तुझे तो मालूम ही है कि तेरी बेटियों में हमारा कोई हिस्सा नहीं है, यानी हमें लड़कियों से कोई ख्वाहिश नहीं।
And there goes Muhammad Baba, and there he bowls, and he has bowled. And
Abu was struggling in the Canadian job market. He was considered too old and had no Canadian experience. Things were different with Ammi. She took to her new surroundings. She took English classes and soon found work at a daycare. The babies were so attached to her. This was the first time she ever made her own income. She couldn't contain her excitement. She would drive to work and then to meet her friends, and sometimes even went to the movies with them. Abu, on the other hand, felt his children slipping out of his grasp. He continued to hope that we'd get married off respectably to good Muslim spouses.
How do you feel your sister getting married soon? Getting a nice brother-in-law.
yeah, that's the best part of it.
Two divorced aunties took a shine to me. They started confiding in me about their ex-husbands who, as it turns out, were homosexual. They spoke with such venom that I started to get scared. Could something like this happen to me? Good thing I wasn't really gay. I wasn't able to make friends at school. We had nothing in common. I didn't talk like them. I didn't dress like them. We didn't really understand one another. I briefly made friends with another misfit immigrant from Poland.
He had a room like that, right? And he had a camera and he put a shirt and he turned it on and like she didn't know, right? And like, you know, he was laying on the thing and like he was like rubbing his chest and everything, right? Then grab his balls, give him blowjob and everything, right?
He thought I got a kick from his locker room banter. He was pretty clueless about my gaze. How I wanted to kill my unnatural desires. Soon, I just wanted to kill myself.
No pain, no worries, nothing. Just pure ecstasy and fun.
One day, a librarian discreetly handed me a copy of E.M. Forster's gay novel Morris, which takes place at Oxford University at the turn of the century. I devoured it and all other E.M. Forster novels. At the time, I still didn't know how to cope with these strange feelings. But I've never forgotten how the librarian took the time to see me for who I was, and she wasn't disgusted. Some random acts of kindness by strangers stay with you forever. I decided to put my suicidal ideation on hold and went off to university instead. To the chagrin of my parents, I chose to live on campus. I had never lived away from my family. I lived in the jock residence, and they all saw right through me. The campus was a place to explore and celebrate your sexuality. But even though I was out of the nest, I still wasn't ready for that. I clung to the notion that I could change. I tried dating girls. Our relationships rarely moved beyond platonic.
You can lift her. You're such a big, strong man.
That's me.
Whatever.
And when we tried, it was awkward and confusing for the both of us. I was careful about not being seen with boys or girls in public places. I knew how easily word could get back to my family, but it didn't matter. One of my relatives started a rumor claiming he saw me kissing a boy. Here I was, trying to be as straight as possible, and people just made up lies about me anyway. So the choices became clear: live a lie and keep suffering, or be honest to myself, even at the risk of shame and sorrow.
I'm going there. They don't need to.
I took the first step.
Everybody knows what.
I came out. First to myself, then some of my close friends, and then to my younger brother Mani, who I always trusted. As for the rest of my family, they didn't need to know.
Happy birthday, dear Abu. Happy birthday to you. Cameraman, puppy to your father. Come on, come on. Leave. You the director. Wait. Come on.
Moving to Canada or a migration for any person at that age, when he has passed the prime of his age, is never easy. I didn't realize the extent of frustration till I moved to Canada myself in '99. And then I realized that Abu felt like he has failed at a certain time of his life.
Abu wasn't able to fit in like Ammi could. After several failed business attempts, Abu got himself a job as a security guard in the same place where I worked as a security guard. It was devastating for his ego, and I could feel that.
कान खोल कर सुन लो राजा, इस घर की इज्जत कोई खिलवाड़ नहीं है। ये मेरा घर है। मेरी मर्जी के खिलाफ चलने वाला इस घर में नहीं रह सकता।
Abu started behaving like a tyrant. He thundered at me, I have good daughters and bad sons. I was bad. We were bad.
मम्मी, क्या मैं जूते पॉलिश भी नहीं कर सकता?
Abu started communicating with me through formal letters and edicts asserting his role, and he expected me to follow them. My dear Arshad, your sharing of accommodation with a single lady has put us in an embarrassing position. Although under Canadian environments it seems okay, but it is not okay under our social and religious background. You are most welcome to visit us, but please do not bring any of your female friends. I did not use the word girlfriend, as it has a different meaning, to the house until she is accompanied with a mehram, meaning father, brother, or mother. I wanted to be part of the country I lived in. I wanted to be Canadian, and they wanted to drag me into some semblance of Pakistani Muslim that they had in their mind. More and more, my parents started to hang out with their new religious friends. The food in our house was now labeled halal, allowed, or haram, forbidden. It started at first with just the meat, then the packaged food, the jello, the chips, and the candy. The list of forbidden foods was getting longer and longer, keeping pace with the size of my father's beard. Growing up, we were taught that God assigns 2 angels to every human being, one on each shoulder. The angel to the left writes your bad deeds, the one to the right, your good. At home, I constantly felt my bad deeds outweighed the good. I was plagued by guilt for not being a good son, for my perverse desires, for thinking wrong could be right. imagined coming out would cleanse the guilt. It didn't. It just highlighted internal schisms and tacked a few more hyphens to my identity. Now I was the brown, Pakistani, Muslim, KFC eating, cinema junkie, faggot. In the summers, I moved back home with my parents to save money. Of course, around them, I was still in the closet. I was extra careful around the house. I told my brother Mani to be vigilant with my things, but he, being who he is, forgot my CD labeled Gay Classics in the family car. Of course, my mother found it. I saw my parents sitting in the basement discussing something serious. I knew I was in trouble. One day, I was sitting at Abu's computer when he came and sat right next to me. He said, "You are a gay." He told me about his brother who had overcome drug addiction and likened me to his cousin who had killed a man. He then proclaimed, "You are our son and we love you, but see a psychiatrist about this condition." I promised I would. Shortly after that, I moved out. I never lived with my parents again. So my parents finally knew. The secret was out, and I, for one, felt relieved. One would think that life would be easier in the gay world. All the world's prejudices show up in the gay community too. Your complexion, your height, your weight, your dick, everything had to hit certain standards or you just didn't belong. Thankfully, at university, I made friends with a really intriguing gay man. I'd never met someone quite like him before. He said things completely alien to me. Being gay was fabulous. All the best people are gay, he explained. He listed off intellectuals, writers, media personalities, all of them gay. I hadn't thought of it that way before. He made me throw away all my acrylic sweaters, too passé, and I picked up latex instead. Abu's other family was the army. His friends supported him more than even his own family were able to. Perhaps I too needed to build a second family. I joined a gay Muslim group, searching to find a place for me in my father's faith. I met hundreds of kindred souls, striving to reconcile sexuality with spirituality. One of the best things to happen to Abu was joining the army. In my case, it was finding a job as a flight attendant. Up to that point, I'd had the usual string of low-paying menial jobs students endure. The airline job changed my life. The freedom to travel, the steady income, all gave me independence and much-needed confidence. Even my parents were pleased, especially now that they could travel for next to nothing. This seemed to bridge the gap, restoring some of their respect for me. It wasn't all a bed of roses, though. I still had a Pakistani passport and had to get special security clearance. This was 1998. I was called in for an interview with CSIS, the Canadian Intelligence Service. The agents who interviewed me knew more about my life than I did. They wanted to know if my parents knew that I was gay. They asked me if I was affiliated with any Islamic organizations. Do gay Muslim support groups count? It seemed my identity was under scrutiny from all sides.
And year after year, things are becoming more difficult.
Once during Eid prayer, the Imam declared that the West had a grand plan intent on destroying the Muslim world. It was easy to laugh at that absurd statement. When the Twin Towers collapsed on 9/11, nothing was easy anymore. Whatever fragile harmony existed between Muslims and the West, all came crashing down with them. Once war drums started beating in Canada, I joined the peace movement. I was invited to a live taping of a TV talk show discussing the impending Iraq war.
Will the invasion of Iraq bring a new world order or a new dark age for the Middle East?
It's a great moment for Iraq, first of all, because they will be liberated from that dictator. And I'm quite sure we'll see in the coming weeks how happy the Iraqi people are to be liberated from that.
Okay, I want to go to the other side. Do you think it will bring democracy or chaos?
I think it'll be total chaos. First of all, the biggest export of the United States of America is weapons, military. A country that sells weapons as the biggest export does not want world peace. Why is it that we are talking to this day about perpetuating colonialism and imperialism, US imperialism, a white racist man ruling the world, when we should be talking about giving back the land and the money and the food to the indigenous peoples of the world? How can we sit here today and justify an invasion in today's society? How can all of you sit around and do you know what it feels like to have a bomb fall on your head? I mean, really, who are these people?
We're going to take a short break. We're right back after this.
Police are now sifting through 3 van loads of material they seized. The men are being
In 2003, 19 Pakistani and Indian men were suspected of operating an Al-Qaeda sleeper cell. They were falsely accused and imprisoned right in the heart of multicultural Toronto. I realized these cases were trumped up by Canadian authorities to justify the ongoing war on terror.
People of color under attack! What do we do? Stand up, fight back! We have to fight for every shred of freedom that we have. That we have to fight for immigrant rights. We have to fight for
Canada no longer seemed like a country that was just. My parents shared my disillusionment, but we reacted differently. I took my fight to the streets, but my parents went deeper towards religious conservatism. Abu encouraged Ammi to leave her job and stay at home. Abu's religious influence began to take a hold of Ammi as well. They bonded over lectures from the fundamentalist preacher Farhat Hashmi, whose tapes had tormented me in my youth. Now Farhat Hashmi was a big deal. Like many other missionary preachers that cropped up after 9/11, the mullah rock stars.
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
She armed women like my mother with fierce conviction to fight modernity and Western ideology.
जिसे कुरान पाक में फाहिशतुम मुबय्यिना कहा गया है, इसमें जिना भी आता है और जिना के अलावा ख्वाहिश नफ्स पूरी करने के सारे तरीके, मसलन मर्दों की मर्दों से ख्वाहिश पूरी करना होमोसेक्सुअलिटी कहा जाता है। फिर इसी की एक और सूरत हैवानात से ख्वाहिश पूरी करना। इसके मुताल्लिक आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने फरमाया है कि अगर तुम देखो कि कोई शख्स हैवान पे जा पड़ा है तो उसको भी और उस हैवान को भी मार डालो। खुशियां खत्म हो जाती।
She changed my mother forever.
इसीलिए शौहर की इजाजत और मर्जी के बगैर घर से भी नहीं निकलना चाहिए। हज़रत मुआज़ बिन जबल कहते हैं
कभी हम खूबसूरत थे, कभी हम खूबसूरत थे, किताबों में बसी खुशबू की मानिंद सांस साकिन
To Ammi, being gay was my choice. She felt I didn't try hard enough to change. After all, what couldn't be fixed with 5 prayers a day and more study of the Quran?
He's not getting married, I'm not happy about it. And it was my dream that my all children get married and just get settled down and live close by.
लेकिन मैं तो मिगेल के साथ
I totally disagree with that.
God, she's back! ये घर है कि कंजर खाना? माँ, अब उसकी गोदी में क्या घुस कर बैठा? चल हट यहाँ से। Auntie G, look at me. आपका बेटा gay है. He likes men. Wake up! Shut up!
Ma! 4 things that we must do in order to complete marriage in Islam. We must have what's called ijab, number 1.
Abu told me that the fear of God would bring me peace. It didn't seem to be working for him.
And the number 4.
I wanted a God that was love. I was tired of being afraid.
He left that struggle to be a part of Canadian mainstream and went into the sideline and started looking for an area which would be his exclusively. And the religion, unfortunately, provides that solace right away, because that is where most of the retired people, everybody disillusioned with the prospects of a brighter future in Canada, automatically shift to.
Whenever I visited my father, he seemed to get worse and worse. We were no longer capable of respectful communication. Everything was charged with the subtext of my gayness or my godlessness. Normal conversations turned into shouting matches. Naturally, he won all the arguments. He had God on his side, and I had nothing. We were at an impasse. Living away from my family wasn't cutting it anymore. I needed real distance. Montreal was just far enough, yet close enough. It was a progressive city and a haven for artists. I decided to study cinema, and although the weather was cold, the people were warm. I met someone in Montreal who reminded me of my days in Islamabad and the innocence and beauty of that time. He helped my restless soul. I felt like I'd finally come home. And I made him throw away all of his acrylic sweaters. I was still an angry person. I tried channeling all my anger into my activism, fighting injustice where I could, but that alone could not contain it. The anger was always larger, and I couldn't quite put my finger on why that was. I went to a therapist. Soon I began unlocking memories. There was the boy in the bathroom when I was 4, but now I also recalled a servant who proceeded to first molest me and then blackmail me about it. I tried to tell Ammi about him. I told her I hated him, but when pressed, I couldn't articulate why. My mother never took the hint. So who do you tell? What can you say? Sex is sinful. Sex is shameful. Shame controls all. There seemed to be nothing else to do but bear it. I returned to Pakistan for a visit and found myself confronting one of my uncles. He too molested me as a child. He claimed that I started it. But I was 9 and he was in his mid-20s. He was supposed to look out for me. I did not ask to be raped.
I was 6 years old when an uncle of mine, took me to the washroom in the family house and performed sex on me, and then opened the back door and left. And I was so young that I remember I didn't even think of using the back door. I kept banging on the front door that please open it because I can't open it. These experiences, I realized later on, are not particular to me. They were carried out against my own brothers. And then it's a vicious cycle, unfortunately. It just keeps bloody growing and going on. And then I found out in my college that most of the girls went through the same thing from very close relatives, many of them with their brothers, So it's a very cruel attitude. And I really think people do it mostly because they think the child will forget. And they don't understand that nobody ever forgets.
For the longest time, I wondered if it was these early childhood sexual traumas that had turned me gay. I now realize that many people have been through this, and like me, have buried their painful memories far, far away. But what lingers most? The secrets and lies. And your parents, how's their relationship?
I cannot discuss that.
My mother never discussed what happened to my sister with her, with Abu, or with anyone in our family. Perhaps the abuse hit too close to home for her. Shame silences the abused. Although a child may remain silent, her actions might contain clues. Why did my mother color her face in all her childhood photos? Was she, like me, trying to erase herself? And Abu? I couldn't talk to him about anything personal. How could I tell him about the sexual abuse? All I could do was hate him for failing to protect me, failing to empower me, failing to nurture my strength to fight back. The moral pedestal he preached from only pushed me further away. I felt Abu was there for everyone else but me. Abu was on a mission to spread the word of God. He joined an Islamic missionary group. They visited lonely geriatric patients in hospital and made them feel better. And he also went door to door preaching Islam. Abu was starting to get totally obsessed with the afterlife, and I never met a person so preoccupied with his grave. During Ramzan, the holy month of fasting, Abu would spend several nights at the local mosque. One night, he had a dream where 3 men in white robes appeared to him with prophecies. The first one told him that before he dies, he must visit the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem. The second man told him to perform a pilgrimage to Mecca in Saudi Arabia. The third informed Abu that he would die at 3 a.m. The only person Abu shared his prophecy with was Ammi, and she kept it a secret. My parents spent winters traveling and summers at home with their grandchildren. Abu got himself a smartphone and revived his love of photography. He even started experimenting with making videos of his adventures. Unfortunately, he became one of those vertical cinematographers, despite my constant appeals for him to shoot horizontally and to try to capture a wider scope of the world. They soon set out to visit Jerusalem, accompanied by my nephew. Ever since his dream prophecy, Abu had started working extra hard to make Ammi happy. He stopped his shouting outbursts and started listening more. This was the first time I felt harmony in my parents' relationship. Abu was more agreeable with her and with the rest of the family. Abu may not have been an ideal father, but he was an exceptional grandfather. My brother's daughter Rayan was mad about him. Twice a year, Abu held large gatherings in the party room of his building to celebrate Eid, the big Muslim holiday. The entire family and lots of friends were invited.
Are you videoing all of
Abu always invited my boyfriend, whom he referred to as my roommate.
Abu never discussed Arshad being gay with me, but he always called it, his choice of lifestyle. Just by virtue of Arshad's partner, Miguel got the respect from my father, which was more than I think anybody would do. And that, I think, itself is a very big step for a father, Pakistani Muslim father, to take.
Abu even added me as a friend on Facebook, but I ignored him. I wasn't ready for that. Whereas Abu became more accepting, Ammi went the other way.
From my point of view, it's just a rebellious things and of course attention seeking. God has cultivated in us to change ourselves for the better, and I always expected him to change himself for the better, and I think that will be good for his family.
Asma and her husband started a successful South Asian event, the Mosaic Festival, right in the heart of Mississauga. Abu delighted in attending and he was so proud of Asma for her uplifting work in the community. One year, the Pakistani folk musician Sain Zahoor came to town, and Abu discussed Sufi poetry and music with him. Despite being born in pre-partition India, my parents found it hard to secure visas to India. When they finally managed it, they visited their hometowns in Indian Punjab. Ammi went to the house where she was born, which is now a girls' school. Abu visited his mother's grave, which he found behind a mosque. A house was being built over it, erasing all memory of his past. They wept quietly, but were comforted by their hosts. They were overwhelmed by the love they received from a country usually branded as their enemy. I went to visit my childhood home in Islamabad. They've demolished it and are building 2 mansions in its place, leaving no space for the lawn where our family celebrated birthdays and weddings and hosted barbecues. My own past being erased in front of my very eyes. This was the home that I had always longed to return to. The home of my childhood. The home where in my child's mind, my parents would live forever and we would all be happy. Abu suffered from a degenerative lung disease triggered by asbestos exposure, a consequence of his years of working in construction in Pakistan. Abu only shared the details of his illness with Ammi. In 2011, Abu decided to take Ammi to Mecca for the Hajj pilgrimage. This was the last trip from his dream. Abu's doctor told him flat out, "If you go to Saudi Arabia, you'll be buried there." Abu replied, "I will welcome a death in the Holy Land." We tried our best to talk him out of it, but he was adamant. The pilgrimage is said to cleanse the believers of all their past sins. After the Hajj, their souls are as good as new. Ammi and Abu had a glorious time, but Abu ended up contracting a serious viral infection. The final stop was Pakistan, but soon after landing, Abu became extremely ill and was rushed to the hospital. It was after midnight when I reached the hospital in Lahore with my siblings. Abu's lungs were failing him. In a sense, he was drowning. Abu had been given a tracheotomy, a hole in the throat that eases breathing. Abu could no longer speak. We would not hear his booming voice any longer. We celebrated his 75th birthday in the hospital.
अच्छा अस्सलाम वालेकुम ठीक है अंकल जी अभी आप खाया पिया कुछ
One day, a nurse brought a change of clothing for Abu. It was a light blue hospital gown that buttons up in the back. Only then it occurred to me that this was the same shirt the monster in my nightmare was wearing just a month prior. The surreal misery of a parent on their deathbed finally dawned upon me. Old wounds opened up again, figuratively and literally, and I began recalling all my clashes with Abu. Why does the past linger? Why does it affect us so deeply? Could I love my father and could he love me despite the differences? For years, I was so angry at my father for changing our family, for turning it puritanical. Now, all of that just didn't seem to matter. One night, I picked up the courage and spoke to Abu. I asked him if he was angry with me. He shook his head to say no. I asked him if I had disappointed him as a son. Again, he said no. With my voice shaking, I asked him to forgive me if I had hurt him. He shook his head, as if to tell me not to say things like that. He picked up a pen and wrote on the paper I'd given him and handed me his note. I love my children.
Let's go for a walk.
Just not waking up.
You will.
At 2 a.m. the morning of December 9th, we got a call and went to the hospital. Ammi asked me to remove the pillow from under Abu's head and to make sure that his eyes were closed. A young physician pronounced the time of death to me, 3 a.m. Abu's prophecy fulfilled. My cousins, my brothers and I washed Abu's body and my uncle prepared him for burial.
Allah has appointed us in this world to do right things, and human beings are bound to certain rules. When they cross those boundaries, they hurt, at least they hurt me very badly, and they used to hurt my husband also.
I finally accepted Abu's friend request on Facebook. Parents are like the setting sun, Abu told me. Sunsets haunted me long after that. Abu used to say that his children Asma and Arshad are extremely gifted, that they would bring him either great fame or great shame. I wonder about that question. I guess it will depend on who's watching. At Abu's funeral, one of my hysterical aunts commanded me to ask Abu for forgiveness. I looked at her and said, yes, I asked for Abu's forgiveness. And I forgave him too.
बहुत से अनकहे लफ्जों से तस्वीरें